Well, Passion Week, again, third in a series, little mini series, but it's Passion Week, and hopefully it's not just Jesus' passion, right? The disciples that Jesus talked to and explained the cross to through the prophets and the law got lit. And so hopefully you'll get lit also. You know, the cross, we always remember the cross about sin, and rightly so. And we also associate the cross with Passover. But Passover is not really about sin. It was about the effects of sin. You know, Israel was not living free. They were working hard with self-effort just to get by. They were under the rule of external outside forces, not controlling their own destiny, and they were not living in an experience that God would have them and what God set them free to. They began the journey into a land where God cared for, that God caused blessings to flow, joy, peace, basically life in Christ. That's the promised land is life in Christ. But we typify and think about the cross as it relates to sin, and that we have to look at the Day of Atonement. Because on the Day of Atonement, God dealt with sin. In fact, the Day of Atonement was the most precious holiday of all the holidays that Israel had. And so to understand the cross, we have to understand that, and Jesus absolutely explained that to Cleopas and the other disciple. And on the cross, and also in the Day of Atonement, because again the cross embodies that, there was two basic sacrifices. One was a burnt offering, and one was a sin offering. And I'm going to talk about the sin offering, which was comprised of two goats. But you have to see there's two different offerings here, and I'm going to talk about the burnt offering right now because we tend to minimize that. In fact, we don't even talk about that. But what happened with these offerings is that hands were laid on top of the animal, whether it was the ram for the burnt offering or the goat, one of the goats for the sin offering. And we understand that part of this was transference. You know, for the goat, they transfer the sins of the people onto the goat. But it's also identity, that we're putting our hands on this animal and we're identifying with that animal. And we really see this as Paul explains this about being in Christ, that we died with him. We were in Christ, we died, we were buried, we rose, we ascended, we're seated in him because we're identified in everything Christ did. When the old creation died, it died in him. And when he came up, the new creation came to being. So, but anyway, this ram that was given at the end after the sin offering was really a whole burnt offering. And a whole burnt offering is never about sin, because it produces a sweet, pleasing fragrance to the Lord. And so part of the cross was, as we know, Jesus willingly gave himself up because he loved the Father. The whole burnt offering is always a willing, free giving of themselves to the Lord. I'm going to do this because I love you, Lord. And so you and I need to identify with that part of the cross too, that when Christ died, we were included in that sweet smell. And so now we're not just sinners. We're not just sinners. You're not just a sinner that's saved by grace. You're actually a beloved son who God just adores. God just adores. So again, tomorrow we're going to talk about the sin part, but I wanted to talk about this part because we never, ever hear about this part in the cross, that you were included in Christ in his perfections, as well as he was included in our sin. So till tomorrow.